Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Now, on August the 5th, we joined the Beyond Flowers tour. My wife and I took this tour because I thought that this is going to be a tour that you would go on if you were a little bit more jaded towards how many pretty gardens you can go to, but also it was very informative and educational in the way of the environment and managing an urban environment. So I thought, okay, we'll take a look. And it was really nice in the fact that they took you around so you didn't have to worry about it. So we drove to Buffalo. We met at the medical campus and jumped on a bus and off we went. It was one of those days when it could be bright and sunny and it could have been raining and everything else, and it was just like that. So it was one of those days where you got every type of weather other than possibly snow, and it was a nice day but also a rainy day. And the first thing that we want to tell you about is the bioretention facility. Now, this is the one that really turned my crank because it does a couple things for me. First of all, a bioretention facility is going to retain the rainwater or storm water from a large area. And what this was the medical campus had a 4-acre parking lot. Now, a 4-acre parking lot, as you can imagine, does sort of capture a great deal of water. So it's all been regraded and sloped down to what I'll call a massive ditch that is redone in order to retain moisture before it goes into the storm sewers. And it's very, very impressive. First of all, you would not know what it was. It looked like a ditch, yes. A big, deep ditch, yes. But it was completely planted with native plant materials and other plant materials that made it extremely attractive. So it added to the neighborhood and the look of the neighborhood as well. Now, they had aronia in there, they had Joe Pye weed, they had all the ornamental grasses that we would expect to see. They had the perennial hibiscus and many others. Now, they put a lot of these in there to slow down and utilize the moisture, but at the same time, it's going to make it attractive. It works really well. It was designed to capture the water from a 4-acre parking lot. Now, if you can imagine 4 acres of asphalt all draining towards one ditch, it's got to be some type of ditch, and that's exactly what it is. It's able to retain the moisture from over that 4 acres. That is, let's say you get 1.25 inches of rain, then guess what? It's all held by this water retention ditch. And it is incredible to see. Sooner or later, the city of Buffalo is going to adopt this as part of its green code, which means it will be more commonly used in order to retain moisture, because what it does is it stops the rainwater from going into the septic and, of course, storm drain system, so they don't get this overspill and overflood into the Buffalo River. Now, it also at the same time goes and holds all the pollutants that may be in the air and on the asphalt, etc. So that means suspended solids, nutrients, metals, hydrocarbons, and bacteria from the stormwater are all held in here and worked on by the plant material before it even goes into the groundwater and into the stormwater system. So that's really good. But also what it does is it gives a nice green space to the employees and patients and visitors that are, and of course the people in the neighborhood that want to use it or see or view it instead of this big, huge asphalt parking lot. And as a result, you're going to see a nicer parking lot and a better, more managed water. And we do need to manage our water more and more. Now, they also have done an enhancement and upgrading of the lighting systems. Now, in a parking lot, for security reasons, you've got people coming and going at different times of the day and night, and it's always a problem. So what they did was they took down all the old wooden light poles with the old inefficient metal halide lamps and put up the proper, more efficient LED lamps and, of course, metal posts. Now, the lamps will be powered by 1,000 watts, and the 1,000 watts comes from a 5-foot tall vertical wind turbine, which sits about 26 feet in the air. And it actually powers the light systems. But it is also a solar system, so that the electricity for the lights are produced both by wind and by solar. The batteries, which are lithium-ion batteries, are storage for the electricity, are actually held in the base of the pole. So that, let's say you get a lot of dark days, whatever light, whatever energy is produced by one or the other, whether it's wind or sun, and the lights still work. All of this was done, and it is an excellent one. Now, the solar bed, which holds the light system panels, was manufactured by Ontario Specialties Corporation, and the wind and power was also developed by Lumos Solari Company based in New York City. They also try to encourage employees and visitors, etc., to bicycle here. Now, if you're coming close or reasonable, it's a good idea. But you want a safe place to put your bikes and everything else that's well lit. So they do and have put in a bicycle storage shelter at the end of the parking lot at Ellicott and Oak Street. And the result is that you've got a place you can go with your bike, lock it up, and will not worry about it. And that's also good. So they're encouraging their employees to take alternate modes of transportation to work. And it works. I think it's a good thing. Now, this was part of the tour. And then they decided, and I'm only going to do a couple of the highlights of this tour. And the next one they took us to was an urban habitat project. Now, this one is called, believe it or not, the Urban Habitat Project. It has won a couple of awards for its ecological production of a nice environment. Okay, now what it's doing is it's working as a classroom and a demonstration project on 3 acres of land at the Central Terminal property intersection of Memorial Drive, Curtis, and Peckham. Dave Machewski, who has been working on it with the Central Terminal Restoration Corporation, neighborhood stakeholders, educators, and everyone else to ensure the project's success. Now, they want to make sure that they have biodiversity. They want native regional habitats, soil remediation, several plant type communities put into this ecosystem that benefit the birds, the bees, the beneficial insects, etc., as well as resident animals. And I saw baby deer coming out of the bush, going from one side to the other, and that's pretty good, because obviously it's a safe environment for them to have young. There are wild grasses, there are trees like grove of pine trees, hawthorns, some of the native shrubs, meadow grasses, and wildflowers have been specifically designed to meet the site's criteria, because you got a lot of polluted soils on this site from the old railway station. Now, it is excellent in the fact that it's also going to be a monarch way station and pollinator conservation site, which is good. In other words, this is where the monarch butterflies can go south, and they can actually stop, eat, rest here, as well as breed here if that's what they want to do. A lot of the grasses were put into here as well. Now, what this does is it helps to keep the storm water out of the surrounding streets and redirects it into a bioretention cells. This one holds 320,000 gallons of stormwater. But its native grasses are also designed to help develop a deep fibrous root system to aerate the soil, aid in the accumulation of runoff, and these grasses are important in sort of restoring the neglected soils, etc. They also give winter food for birds and other wildlife, nesting sites, and nesting materials for the birds. So Beyond the Flowers tour is actually a very, very good one in the fact that it shows you a variety of different ones. The area that is done is an old train station. And of course, if they work on the trains, etc., and the fuels and the diesel and everything else that they used has certainly made it a expensive remediation if they have to remediate all that soil. And standards for remediation of soil like that would be down 6 feet. So if you can imagine acres and acres and acres of this soil dug up to 6 feet, hauled away to be burned and destroyed, then that's not very economical. So in place, they are actually being remediated over time. Now, what they also did was they took us into the city and into what's known as Massachusetts Avenue. The Mass homes are apartments in homes that existed that have been renovated. They are excellent in the fact that it's taking people who can't afford a nice place to live into a good environment to get them back into society. And they go to school, they go and get work, they get training, etc. And they live in these mass apartments. Now, when we say mass, we don't mean huge apartments. We're talking about houses with apartments in them. So they take the existing houses and they make them, with volunteers, into really nice apartments. And I do mean really nice apartments. Now, they are also rental housing. So once these people start getting out into the workforce, they start to pay back by paying rent, etc. And as a result, a lot of low-income families live in these. And that's excellent. It's also individuals, but it is also families. It's under PUSH as well. Now, the PUSH organization is a community organization where they take over an area. They will put in a whole park. They'll put in the equipment and the needs of the community are actually taken into consideration. So you can have a handball court there. You can have tennis courts there. You can have all the jungle gyms. But you also have places where you can have and rent space under a permanent building, no walls, for parties and events. So that's good. Bicycle racks are always, of course, part of it. And across the street, they are building more and more of these homes as well. And then they also took us to a community garden where they renovated the soils from an old house that they ripped down that was no good. And of course, they're gathering rainwater from surrounding homes and roofs and storage. And people in different ethnic backgrounds can come in, rent plots, and grow vegetables and food that they want. Now, if you consider that in this neighborhood, there are 57, I believe, different ethnic background groups. So it is a very diverse community. So it's all on the tour. You have to go and take this tour to see it all. This is only some of the highlights. It's minor compared to all the things that we did see. It was a very busy day and a very, very productive day, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it and learned a little bit as well. And you'd never thought that any of this was going on in Buffalo. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.